Welcome to our V Rising review, where you'll find plenty of blood, garlic substitute alternative meals, and Team Jacob t-shirts. God, I hate myself. With that out of our system, and I promise it's out of our system, let's really talk about V Rising, an early access co-op survival game where you play, as you guessed it, vampires, and not the Tom Cruise kind. V Rising has it all: base building, deep combat mechanics, even a vampire slave management system, so we don't want to waste any time here. As the co-op bros, we're going to let you know V Rising has what it takes to be for you and your best friends.
Watch out, he's gonna do ad soon. No, he's skulls, watch out.
There we go.
Hey, let's go, boys. Get in here.
Let's freaking go.
Coming.
Wow.
Wow, dude.
That was crazy. There was some pro plays over there.
Yeah, that was sick.
That was awesome. That was good stuff, boys.
The
Frozen Eye.
Before you and your clan can go terrorize some town folks, you do have to get some things in order, namely what kind of mode or server you'll be playing in. There's three main options: online play, private game, and hosting a dedicated server. If you choose to play online, you have four more options to consider. You can play on a PvE server where you'll run into different players, but PvP combat is disabled. If PvP is your thing, you have the option of playing in a basic, full loot, or duos PvP server. We won't be diving into the specifics of those modes because we decided to play in a private game in order to have the most control over our co-op experience. Setting up a private game is great because it allows you control over pretty much everything from your starting gear to even the lengths of the day and night cycles. It's easy to set up a password too, so only your most trusted friends can join. So what's the difference between a private game and a dedicated server? Basically, if you play in a private game, you can't play without the host, aka the person that created the server in the first place. To be clear, you can't join until that person is in the game, and if they leave, you'll be automatically kicked. If you want to avoid this, you can play in a dedicated server, but you either need to host one on your own or rent a server that everyone could access 24/7. The latter does require you to pay a fee on a website like gPortal though, typically costing $15 a month. There's plenty of guides when it comes to this stuff, so I'd recommend doing your homework if you do choose this option. So I know I got into the weeds a little bit there, but it was honestly hard for us to find the correct info for ourselves, so we thought it best to set the record straight on this video. The bottom line is this: if you don't mind running into random people, online play is a fine option. Only thing is, you're limited to playing in a 4-player clan. Whereas in a private game, you can play within a 10-person clan. So ultimately, it's up to what your group is looking for. I know we didn't mind not being able to play on our own since building up our castle together was such a great time.
We all have to be in the coffins. Andrew, get in the coffin.
I can't actually. You can't
Oh, no way.
Down, yeah.
Wait, then you have to sit on the throne.
Yeah, you have to sit on the throne.
You have to have your visual. You're like the Lich King.
All right, here we go.
Nice.
Yes.
This makes me happy. Wow.
This makes me happy too.
All right, here we go.
Good night,
This
V
is so
Rising.
sweet.
Good night, everybody.
That's good.
There you
That's
go.
good.
At the beginning of the video, I alluded to the fact that V Rising has a lot going for it, and I was seriously not exaggerating. This game may be in early access, but if you told me that it was in 1.0, I wouldn't bat an eye. So the gameplay loop is pretty nuanced, and I'm going to do my best to break down what V Rising is at its core. When you first start in V Rising, you're underleveled and homeless, and your goal from here on out is to remedy that. You'll kill a few skeletons and craft some base armor, and then find a decent plot of land to build a pretty basic base. In the top left corner of your screen will be the next objective at all times, and it usually is completed by adding something new to your base, whether that's just the simple foundations at the beginning of the game, or a throne to control your minions later on. To build these items and progress through the game, you have to gather materials you find in the world, like trees or rocks. Pretty quickly, you'll have a very simple home that you'll work out of and upkeep. This is where the real gameplay loop begins. You'll continue to gather materials and upgrade your base, but you'll also need to start venturing into the world to take on V-Bloods, this game's bosses. V-Bloods are powerful enemies that roam around the world or have their own little nooks and crannies that they hang out on. Killing a V-Blood usually unlocks a powerful ability and more crafting items to make to continue to work on your castle or create armor and weapons for yourself. It's all good. So finally, here's sort of the loop. You're gonna track some V-Bloods, you're gonna get the kill, you're gonna go home and craft whatever they provide. Realize you probably need more materials. Go get those materials, go home, do some more crafting. Eventually you're going to be ready for the next V-Blood, and that sort of starts again. But I'm really just trying to simplify the loop for you guys. I've given you just the bird's eye view. There's so much more to this system, and it beautifully blends together in just about every way. For example, each material will go in and out of fashion, so unlike some survival games, every activity always feels important to progression. At the beginning of the game we use bones to craft our initial armor, but we still needed bones later for upgrades, so collecting them never felt like a waste of our time. Plus, there's different gameplay elements that help add to this gameplay loop. One really neat example was the day-night cycle, and if you know anything about vampires, the sun is not our friend. So during the day, if you get caught in it for too long, you'll be melting HP before you can say Nosferatu.
I need help. Oh, dang, the sun got me. I'm dead.
This element adds to the gameplay loop in that we found ourselves going out at night to hunt or material gather, and then working on our castle or our armor by day. Again, everything works together in this game so well, and we really enjoyed our 32 hours with it. We ended up beating 29 of the 37 total bosses on the board, and the great news is, if we had the time, we would have kept playing until we beat them all. V Rising, my friends, is a banger co-op game.
Nice, dudes. Whoa, yeah.
This is cool. This is cool.
Yeah, Vamp Gang.
The Vamp
Whoa.
Gang.
That's
the
right.
heck? That's so sick.
I love being
This
a
game's
vampire.
Man, there is a lot to that gameplay loop. Building up a Gothic empire may be a tall order, but thankfully you don't have to do it alone. One of the best parts of the co-op here is how easy everyone can contribute in meaningful ways. A great example is everything that it took for us to craft the Halloween gear, which was one of our bigger upgrades. We would need a ton of cotton yarn, wool thread, and leather to craft everyone a full set, so the boys got right to work. We first sent Andrew out to the fields to rate these poor farmers of their cotton, which would get processed into, you guessed it, cotton yarn. Meanwhile, I'd venture into town and loot homes of their wool thread. Yes, I might have killed some defenseless townfolk, and no, I won't be taking any further questions, thank you. We'd still need a bunch of leather though, which is one of the first things you get in the game, but as Andrew said, came back in style like it was the 80s all over again. Thankfully, we had our boy Andy out there skinning bears, wolves, Bambis, basically anything on four legs. But even after we gathered all of these materials, we'd still have to wait for them to process at the tailoring bench. If only there was a way to make it go faster. That's where our dude Garrett comes in. See, the thing is, there's just so many different systems in this game, you simply can't have one person figuring it all out. But thankfully Garrett, the brilliant man that he is, figured out that if you have a specific type of floor set in a room with your refinement station, it'll process even faster. So he got to work by expanding our fortress and making sure each room had the appropriate flooring, i.e. the tailoring floor for the tailoring bench. As you can see, doing this all on your own would be pretty overwhelming, but because we each had a different role to play, it was super manageable. And now that we had that sweet Halloween gear, it was time to take on some V-Bloods.
What? Okay. No smart time, dude.
Wrong button, sorry guys.
Just overwhelm her.
Oh, what the?
Whoa!
What
What's
the heck?
happening?
Oh god, I'm trying to kill them all. This is so hard. They're doing
Dude,
so
he's,
much.
No, he's already back at full health.
Dang, okay. That's gonna be tough. Like a mechanic to this fight like that.
Oh, that's it. So yeah, you do that while you're invulnerable.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's cool,
Yeah,
dude.
I'm doing it right now.
Admittedly, I half expected the combat in this game would just be me mindlessly clicking on a boss, and yeah, that couldn't be further from the truth. Boss fights are super tough. You're always trying to stay mobile, keeping an eye on your ability cooldowns, and anticipating a V-Blood's patterns. Naturally, this all feels great in co-op. We were always communicating, whether that's calling out a boss summoning ads, or when someone would pop their super ability. Another big part of combat though is managing your blood pool, which not only acts as your health reserve, but is also depleted when you use abilities. As such, it's essential to communicate when someone is leaving the arena to bloodmen, aka heal. This led to some of the most tense boss encounters when you have people tagging in and out to heal, leaving those in the arena surviving long enough till it's kill or be killed. And it was truly awesome when we'd barely win a fight by the skin of our skinny vampire tees. Having a 4-person team for these bosses was pretty essential, but sometimes we just narrowly beat a boss with the 3 of us if one of us wasn't around. Thankfully, that person wouldn't miss out on much, as the progression in V-Rising is perfect for co-op play. You can always fight a boss again if you miss out on an ability or recipe, and your overall level is tied to your gear, so it's easy for your fellow vamps to help you craft the highest gear to avoid falling behind. Unlike other games we've played which are based on experience points or grinding, this was a welcome change. Okay, I know that was a lot, but I hope you can see that V-Rising has some truly stellar co-op features. As the game is still in early access though, there's definitely some room for improvement once the final build launches.
This literally took me like 4 hours to do when I played by myself.
That's why.
And here we are, 56 minutes in.
Okay, before I get into it, because yes, there are some improvements that can be made, they are pretty minor. I can't emphasize enough how well this game plays in co-op. But like that annoying professor in college who refuses to give 100s, we're here to give at least a little critique. While the combat was one of our biggest positive surprises, there is an issue with builds and how they play out in combat. Like Gabe mentioned, you upgrade and level up not through experience points, but armor. Unfortunately, there's only one upgrade path in the entire game for armor. That means we were all wearing the same armor all game long. But okay, that's fine, we can still diversify our build through weapons, right? Not really. The weapons all play about the same, despite nice abilities depending on your choice. Whether you choose spear, dual axe, or sword, you're still mostly going for the same gameplay. The only exception was that Gabe chose a crossbow about halfway through the game, and that gave him some nice range unlike the rest of us. Okay, so armor is inconsequential, weapons fare a little better, but what about your combat abilities? I'd say they did the best at allowing some diversity. You have 5 different ability trees to choose from, and you can switch them in and out whenever you want. You'll gain abilities as you kill V-Bloods, like I mentioned earlier. Most every ability tree goes something like this. You've got a range attack, a shield or a buff, an AoE attack, a dash or a dodge, and occasionally a support. Finally, you also have a super ability to choose from with a long cooldown. We really enjoyed this system, and switching in and out in between boss attempts made for some nice strategy, but it's not enough to lift the overall issue with builds. Look at it like this. In the end, we all chose to run with our damage options and mostly just use the same super. Granted, it is an amazing Hyper Beam-like ability, but still. Did anyone feel like they could run a tank build? No. Did anyone feel like they could run a support or healer build? No. Maybe, just maybe you could with the right abilities, but with the lack of diversity in armor, it would be a stretch. Now with all of that covered, let me again say this. While better build diversity would have been awesome, we still enjoyed the combat and would consider it a great part of this game. It just could have been even better.
Coin from the church for 2 old beggars.
We come from a different phase, but we're here to convert to your church, yes?
Ready, Gabe? 3, 2, 1.
Am I gonna ult on this nurse?
Oh my god, no, dude.
So, despite some very minor gripes, it's pretty obvious that yes, we had a ton of fun with V-Rising. There's just so much to sink our teeth into, pun intended. For one, building a castle from the ground up is incredibly fun because you just have so much freedom in how you want to do it. I think I speak for everyone in saying that our throne room turned out to be one of the best rooms in Casa Vampgang, with the secret garden we decorated being a close second. Speaking of decorations, did I spend almost a whole session decorating the castle while my boys are out there putting in work? Yes. Do we benefit from it in any real way? No. Was it fun? A resounding yes. There's also plenty of shenanigans to be had, from sneaking into towns as humans, playing leapfrog, or even finding some trippy mushrooms in the cursed forest. Yeah, I don't totally remember that last part, but I guess it happened. You can even get your very own human servant that we converted into a vampire like us. Whether that was ethical or not is up for debate, but we did deliberate on what to name him, and we loved him like one of our own.
Crowbar is rising.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
Crowbar.
At the end of the day though, this game is just plain addictive. The gameplay loop is so satisfying that we could easily spend another 20 hours with it and be totally happy with that.
The survival genre has slowly become a mainstay for great co-op games. Games like Don't Starve Together, The Forest, and even Valheim are all great recommendations. But survival games are waiting for that one game to come in and set a new precedent. When V-Rising comes out of early access, I have my money on it to finally be the one. And the irony is, you can buy this game right now on Steam for $20 and still be getting not just one of the best co-op games of the year, but one of our personal favorites ever. We covered a lot of mechanics in this review, and we still didn't get to everything that made this game so impressive. So if you're wondering if this is for you and your best friends, we'd say yes. Get your vampire references ready, work on that accent because mine's not great. Early access or not, V-Rising is ready to wow.
Thanks for watching and sitting through what is one of our longer reviews in recent memory. Big thank you to Andy and Garrett for playing this one with us, great members of the team, it's honestly been a pleasure. If you enjoyed your time, please subscribe and comment below. Our streaming schedule is actually switching up to Mondays and Wednesdays starting next week, so please follow us on our socials to get updates on what we're streaming and when. We got lots of new videos coming this month, so look forward to that, and we'll see you there next time on another episode of The Co-op Bros.
Wait, I gotta move
What
over
did you
here. Wait,
do
I
to
gotta
me?
move over here.
Oh
a
no,
dragon.
don't do it! Oh no! They're playing tug of war with your body right now. Right, they're playing tug of war with your body over a sawmill. Some sort of sick game.
I'm alive!
Play ping pong.